Hey, Stay, how's it going?
Hey Adam, going pretty good, amazing actually. Autumn started like in full force, and I'm enjoying it.
Um,
Everybody's wearing their jackets, everybody's brown, the good clothes, and yeah, it was really nice to walk around and get a hot baguette when you're lucky to find it at the boulangerie.
you're just fully embracing that Paris lifestyle now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm doing like lots of walks around the neighborhood. I found like a cute Japanese store with lots of stuff. Let me show you. I got this guy. Like
Oh yeah, little frog.
yeah, a little frog guy. Yeah, from a brand called Froggies. Yeah, I love him. Yeah, it's been good. It's been a good week.
I love how in like Japan and South Korea, there's such a big culture of like characters to like denote brands. Like, cell phone companies have characters. Even I think we were in uh, like a local market, like a street market. And the street market, basically the mall, had its own character that even had like person coming out in costume in this character.
Wow, that's totally not surprising. I mean, knowing it like firsthand, but well, not in Seoul, but in Tokyo. Uh, but yeah, I love that as well. Like every little thing has a character, and the cartoons are amazing. There's like that cartoon with like egg yolk.
Oh yeah.
That's what was that name? Well, yeah, I'm forgetting it, but there's like so many stuff like from Hello Kitty to Line Friends, and yeah, lots of
Gudetama.
Gudetama. Yeah, oh my God, yeah. Now I remember the song as well. Yeah. Oh crap. Okay, I'm gonna have that stuck in my head for quite a while. But yeah, I love that. I have lots of stuff around that now is in the top shelf, so my son can't like reach it and eat it because he's at that phase. But it will soon, like, yeah, he'll soon make good use of them.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you? How's your week been?
It's been pretty quiet actually. I think like the week before last, we had just so many events every day and every night. So this week, I think we just like left our calendars mostly clean, and I've been having more relaxing nights and uh, just lazy days, which has been fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet that's good. There comes an age when a late night out, has more of a toll than you anticipate. I've had like lots of those lately.
I'm I'm excited because we are doing like two cool things tomorrow and Friday. We're going to um, there's an event called Eat Drink SLC, which is like it's in a local bird aviary, and so it's like a
Oh.
food and drink event there where it's kind of like food and wine and walking around and looking at birds.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing. So
Sounds like
actual
fun.
like yeah, aviaries. Okay, I didn't know if aviaries were like still a thing. So
I
you're like
know.
dining among birds and wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that must be fun.
And then on Friday, I'm going to Utah JS conference here in Salt Lake. So it's a really big JavaScript conference, and it's kind of neat because it's in a like a movie theater. And so,
Okay.
like, I think there are three different tracks. So I'm imagining there's going to be three different movie theaters, each with a different, like, I think they're like half hour, 20-minute long talks, and then like two or three an hour for like the entire day. So it's just going to be a fun local JavaScript conference with, I'm imagining hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of JavaScript.
Yeah. And I know like
Nice.
the creator of like a TanStack router and table are there. I think the creator of Remix has a talk
Oh wow.
because
Okay.
he's based here in Salt Lake City too.
Oh
So
really? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, Tanner Lindsay was like in Salt Lake as well.
yeah, it's like there's a crazy JavaScript community here in Salt Lake. Like the fact that Remix and TanStack are both like right here.
Yeah.
Um, I need to go to more local like meetups because like they go to that like they speak at some of those meetups too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Those are like some of the biggest and best executed things in JavaScript right now, which is what, we're basing our app on. Well, maybe not like we were just Adam is working on seeing if we can do some nifty backend stuff. So right up to this point, to get like into the technical bits, we've built Hardcover on Next.js, and that came with some quirks, that some of which you already know, like the mobile app doing its certain thing now and then, and slow loading times and stuff breaking. So now Adam was trying something like pretty new, and yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah, I spent like Saturday and some of Sunday and Monday and Tuesday working on just exploring what if we moved from Next.js and moved everything into a React app within our Rails app. So we've always had a Ruby on Rails app. That's kind of the back end of Hardcover. It handles a lot of the database work, a lot of the things that require lots of different background processes, like loading a CSV library, loading book data from external sources. All of that's always been in Rails, and then we've always had our front end in Next.js with React kind of being everything. Like most of it's 95% of it's React, and then 5% of it's like Next.js specific. And so we're thinking about keeping that 95% that's React, moving that over to Rails, and then rewriting that 5% that was in Next.js into Rails. And it's like I did some spiking on it this weekend, and it's looking like it's not going to be as big of a task as I thought. I think the hard part's just getting like the first page to just work 100% correctly, and then pages after that I think are going to be relatively easy to convert, because it's mostly changing it so that instead of Next.js going out and hitting GraphQL and then GraphQL hitting our Postgres database or Rails, now it's just going to be Rails hits our database and renders a React view. And so it ends up being faster for the user, but also faster for us to develop because everything's in one code base. And yeah, I've been pretty excited. Like I've been like reading every bit of documentation around inertia I can read. I've been um, listening to podcasts that the creator was on to like get his like mindset and thought process. And yeah, I'm very very excited about it.
Yeah, that's very good to hear, and good to hear that it's gonna like be an improvement, because it's so like tangled nowadays. People think that's pretty straightforward, but the choices themselves on what to build an app really make things like super complicated down the line, especially now that we scale. And for instance, this is a move because we were talking earlier that it's gonna allow us to render like huge amounts of data. So for instance, when you go to your stats page, you've noticed probably that now sometimes you get a server error, and that's because there's just like a lot of data that's being basically calculated as you're like going on that page. And we're trying to make it so that that loads way faster. And it's also gonna impact another thing which we're prototyping right now, which is the dashboard. We've talked about this, like I think we also did like 2 lives on it, and lots of you gave us feedback. So maybe if it works out, maybe we can like squeeze this in and tie it with stats, so you can see some stats on your dashboard and have that dashboard that we promise, which with many of you, like a lot of you, think it's gonna be like a very good anticipated feature based on what you've told us. So yeah, we're trying to like push as much stuff out the door as possible. So it's exciting, and I love that you're excited about that that move, Adam. Web
Yeah,
development can be such like a tangled mess sometimes. I don't know how it got that way.
yeah,
I've been learning these years, and probably don't know like what's come before while you were, in the middle of it. But even so, stuff has gotten easier, but it's also like, what the hell? I'm looking at game developers and seeing what kind of stuff they do and how they, just use a Postgres database and they render like this whole MMORPG with 100,000 characters with traits and narratives and that kind of stuff. And, we're rendering like a box and we have to do like 10 like magic tricks in the background just to like show it in the, it's a different thing, I know, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like for me, the point at which everything diverged from being simple to being complex was in, I want to say like 2010 or so, when we switched from having the JavaScript that we wrote, from being the JavaScript that we shipped, to having a compiler after the JavaScript. Because like before that, like we weren't like compiling JavaScript in any way. We were just including JS files, and then you would write your own files and they would load in sequential order. And maybe you would have one page, and that page would just load all the JavaScript for your entire app. And nowadays we're doing such complex things with code splitting, with a lot of additional browser support. Like apps are obviously a ton better than they were 15 years ago. But in order to get to that point, we had to add a ton of complexity to them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when you run a startup, you can like so easily get to a point where the tech stack actually like weighs you down so much. And we want to ship fast, and shipping fast means we gotta develop fast, we gotta make it fast so that it's easier to debug. And yeah, right now I'm guessing that's not like happening, especially for a small team like ours. If you had like 10 devs just like ironing out the bugs in the app and doing like quality check on like everything, that may be different, but there's
Yeah.
just like a bunch of us. So
Yeah.
definitely different story, so we have to like do the stuff to be able to adapt, but I'm sure it will pay off from other points of view as well.
Yeah. I think because we did go down this route, it gave us an API. Like if we had
Mhm.
gone down the Rails first route, we might not have ever created an API in this way. We might have tied the entire front end to Rails directly rather than to an API. So, like as we're moving back to Rails, we're going to keep that API point, and then that's the API that anyone can use. That's a hardcover member, and we're still going to be using that as well. But now that first load of the page is not going to use the API. It's only going to be used after the page has loaded and you're like browsing hardcover. That's when it's going to be using the API. So I think like we got to it, like we're potentially getting to a good place where we'll have the best of both worlds, which is fast loading and an API,
Yeah.
which is kind of a roundabout way of getting there. But hey, I think it works.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, it works. And we've talked about open sourcing. I think that's like good because we'll have the API, which is very important, and we'll also have the code base. But we need the API to basically live up to our mission to like make that help build that infrastructure, and then make it accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a chat with our lawyer last week around a couple uh, like company specific things, including like this open sourcing idea, how we license the code base as we open
Yeah.
source. So I'm working with him to kind of hammer out the details. I think I'm leaning towards using a license that could be the same one that Mastodon uses.
Mm.
It's let me see. It's called the um, GNU Afro General Public License.
Okay.
This is I'll drop it in the chat here. But yeah, it allows for making available the complete source code of licensed works and modifications, which include larger works under the same license. Contributors provide an express grant of patent rights. When the modified version is used to provide a service or network, the complete source code of the modified version must be available. So in other words, if someone forks Hardcover and creates something of their own, that thing also has to be open source with the same license.
Okay, that sounds good. I mean, basically, at our size, I guess the biggest risk that we worry about is someone copying Hardcover and coming in, like a competitor with much more resources, coming in, getting the code base, applying like a different brand on it, and basically building the distribution that we don't have, and basically running us into the ground with that. But I'm guessing this would make it like easier, and our moat would be like it always has been the Hardcover brand, and how we're different from like a mission and presentation point of view.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping to. It's like it's so hard to understand like what the value of that is at a community level, but like watching so many different book startups over the years, I tend to think that anyone that I've talked to in this space seems to have just the best of intentions. And even if someone came in with bad intentions, I don't feel like they could attract like a following, like a social following based on theft. Like even when we use like a AI generated image, like we get a ton of pushback. So imagine if the entire site was like, pirated. I think people would raise up arms.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it was, I mean, I was also thinking, what if someone who's like very well funded basically gets our code and never mentions that they copied it. But then again, there's like so much thought process, which is basically like in our heads, that has gone into how things are made, that I'm sure anybody would have to do like a lot of catching up on to basically execute and understand how we did the stuff we did.
Yeah,
including like what we're doing now. I mean, we've been talking about stats for the past 5 episodes. Sorry, everybody, that if it's been dragging, but there's a lot to talk about to basically execute this.
Yeah, it's that whole thing where it's like, if you like when a new person goes into a project, they usually want to create their own vision of it. So, like if someone like came into it and like, oh, Hardcover already has our vision for it, and they would probably just go and support us rather than recreating the wheel. At least that's the hope.
Yeah, I'm really doubting, it could work any other way, especially, with the business model, because I mean, if someone copied it, they would want first to make money off of it. So working with this business model, first off, from a community standpoint, if someone would see that they copied Hardcover, it would be like very bad for them. And then again, it's a very hard, as we've learned, business model to crack. So we're still like building stuff to crack it, which is our theory of, this is how it works. This is how it will work. This is how we're going to win with this. But first off, only we know that, and because we learned like through these years. And my feeling is that if anyone wanted to do that like fast forward, there's no chance they could like actually pull it off.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the next steps are based on all the steps that have come before it. Like, having like an advertiser or like an author section, like that, if you start with that, if that's step one, then you have no users and no readers who those authors are interacting with. So you kind of have to start with the readers first, which is where we started. And yeah, I think when we do finally move into authors eventually, it'll be because we've like have this product market fit for readers already.
Yeah, very true. Nice. Well, getting from that to our subject of the day, Stats.
Yeah.
I was thinking that maybe we could show people. I could show them the video of the dashboard to kick it off, and maybe go into some designs, and then we could talk about the exercise we did with the team today, and explore some of the ideas and maybe translate some to design.
Yeah. That sounds good. Maybe focusing on the pages read one, since that's probably the top the top one from the survey.
Yeah. So Pages Read came up like the most popular thing in stats. So we had Pages Read, which is like reading in general, reading as a habit, I guess. How many pages you read, how fast you read, what causes a reading slump, and signaling those reading slumps. This was a big one from the feedback. Then we had genres. Then we had books read, so like info about the books you've read in a certain period. And then we had data about authors. So those were like the four big takeaways, which are like very important because uh, we haven't, I mean, it puts like a lot of clarity in how to build stats and what people actually want. So first, maybe I can share like this video. I've been experimenting with a dashboard, and I'm just gonna quickly, I have the video right here. So basically, I made this. If anyone knows Cursor, it's a browser, it's a IDE where you edit code. It's kind of like it's a VS Code fork that lets you do stuff with AI models. And I hooked it up to Claude, and basically there's this mode that you go into where you basically tell it what you want it to do, and it does it for you. And we've been like really going back and forth on this dashboard thing. Probably like most of you know that it's been like we've been iterating it a lot a couple of months ago. So basically, I told it to make this dashboard with widgets that you can resize, and I've used like a simple grid layout and library for rearranging the widgets. And yeah, this is actually the result. So pretty much what we wanted for it. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I really like how like when you move a widget, it it changes size to kind of fill all available space in the area that it's moved to. Like that was something that I wasn't even sure how you would do, but how does this handle that? Because it works.
yeah, well, uh, don't ask me basically.
Thank you, Claude. I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the way it did stuff is using the library, and basically it's just like a Tailwind grid system. So I told it to basically make it like one row in height, and fill it a certain number of columns, basically based on what the size I select. And yeah, I just did it. It took like a couple of iterations to tell it like what I want it to do, but uh, it's working. It's working pretty well. It's working well on mobile. That was like one of the things I was fearing a bit. But yeah, this is actually live. I started a branch, and if all goes well, maybe we could put some stats and the stuff we had for the dashboard in here and make them like super customizable. So this is kind of like the intro, and then maybe I can show you how I got here, because let me show my
Yeah,
Figma
I'd be
screen.
curious to see how you're using Claude to, or is it Claude or is it
Oh,
Cursor?
cursor. Yeah, cursor. I have it. I'm on my laptop, but basically, what I do is I go into composer mode. So composer mode, you hit Command I, and it can change, make changes throughout your files. So basically, it's like having a very fast developer who knows documentation really well. but doesn't know like the context of your app really well. So sometimes when you tell it to create new files, it puts them in the wrong place. So for instance, we have the app directory. I've been struggling to make it put the files inside the app directory. It just like put it at like the top level, and I had to move them manually until it caught on, and it realized somehow, okay, this is where I have to edit the stuff. But yeah, it
Okay.
works. I mean, I spent like I guess 4 hours on it, and it's already like I was pretty
Nice.
amazed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I'm gonna try something like that for some of the inertia.js conversion. So I'll try composer mode and see how that goes for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm recommending it to every dev. I mean, if I could do it without, I mean, I think that's what people have been posting about, product managers knowing nothing about code, doing their own apps from scratch. That's not really how it happens, because you have to have like knowledge of what you want it to do and be very specific. So for instance, I tell it, uh, you know, sometimes it's funny because you just tell it there's this weird effect that makes widgets scale as you drop them where they should be, and it understands why that weird effect is happening, and it just like corrects it. So stuff like that, yeah, I don't know how it does, but for stuff where you have to be specific, like I want to use like my components, I want to use this library, I want to use this like dark mode or whatever, you have to like really tell it what to do. So basically, this is like our stats design page. So what got me like building the dashboard was trying to do like these stats have them be resizable. So this would be like a small stat that you would put on the dashboard, and you could like resize it, and it would show maybe more data. So for instance, if you would make it either large or extra large, you'd get the dates as well, and maybe other data too. But I don't know, how does this look, Adam? You raised like a good question. Maybe we can talk about that later.
Yeah. So, let's see. So is the idea that this would look the same whether you're looking at it on the stats page or the dashboard? It's kind of like the same widget in both places, which I like
Yeah,
that kind of framing.
yeah. With some, it might not work. With some, like some of the stats, maybe they would look different on your dashboard. But I'm guessing maybe we could. I mean, this could help us make the info on them really, I guess, flexible, because we were talking about defaults, and you were asking me, if this was on your dashboard, how would you select the time period? So maybe you want to see your pages read last month, or you'd want to have a custom date. And that's a good question, and I'm thinking, what would be the best approach.
Yeah. One of the things that that came to mind for it for me was like on the dashboard we have you're setting the time frame for every widget on the on the stats page. You're setting the time frame for every page, every widget on the stats page.
Yeah.
So like you're not going to look at the stats for one thing differently than other ones. But on the dashboard, you might want to see pages per day over the last month. You want to see your number of books you've read this year. You want to see your currently reading books. Maybe you want to see like some other stats for the current month, like how many books I've read this month. So there's like a lot of different time ranges on the dashboard. So one of the thoughts I had was like this concept where you click on like three little dots or something, and it like flips the flips it over, and like on the back of each of these components there are like settings for time periods.
Okay, yeah, that would be really neat. Would it be hard to like actually have like separate settings for each one? Because we could totally do that. I mean, so basically,
Yeah,
this could be like a resize menu, and it could be like, oh, here we go.
yeah, because I have a feeling like behind the scenes when we store all of this, we're going to have to already store like which widgets you have, their placement, their size. So in addition to that we could store additional options for each dashboard widget, including like the date range, or maybe some of them might have a, well, I don't know. Would we ever want to have like a set start end, or would these? It seems like to me at least on the dashboard, everything would be like date ranges, like
Yeah.
kind of like when you're looking at your financial statements,
Mm-hmm.
and the defaults are like the past week, current month, year to date.
Yeah. Maybe it could be like this. And basically, last week would show 7 days. Last month or last 2 weeks, you could have like last week, last 2 weeks, last month, last 3 months, 6 months, and last year. So you could have this, and it would be just months. Or if you switch to pages last week, you would have like the last 7 days, kind of like here, but it would be like 7 days. Would
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
I'm guessing that would be better. Yeah,
yeah.
that would be.
Having the drop down for this one, I think, is easier than having the flip around, because it's very it's going to be very similar. It's just changing the date range. It's if there aren't other options on it, because I have a feeling like some of these, I'm wondering if some of them will have like additional options that we would want to set per widget. But maybe we
Hmm.
can like table that until we create more widgets, and then we'll know the requirements at that point.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm thinking, maybe we could like skip that and try to make them so that you can control everything like on the on this level, so we don't have to like have settings for each of them. Yeah, this is a great idea. I love it. I mean, look how good this looks. This is very clear. I mean, pages last week you get last 7 days. Pages last month you get like maybe some every like 3 days you get one of these points, so you have like 10 points.
Yeah, I could even imagine we have um, like if I were to annotate this, I would be curious to know like when I finished certain books, as almost like points on the line that you could like hover over and
Mm,
see like, oh, on this date I finished this book, on this date I finished that book.
yeah, that would be great. And we could even have like some for journal entries. So I'm guessing like finished books would work very well like across like a month or so, or like 2 months. Books last month. But we could also have like and for books, I mean, yeah, you would have I'm guessing at least to the week level journal entries. Yeah, last week, and you could show the dots on that as well. Yeah, let's bring in some dots. Where are they? Here we go.
Ah, yes.
Ah, that's good. It doesn't have to be like
Oh yeah, I was
so.
even thinking about these almost like one thing. Like this could be like pages over time, but
Oh,
on
and
the
you could.
chart we have the books that you finish, like the dates that you finish certain books.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you can have like a nice tooltip that shows up when you go over each dot, so you know what what it is, maybe even with like a very small cover.
Yeah.
Or even like just the cover could work. Just last week. This is like just another book that you're reading. We could make these adapted. Yeah, that's neat. I'm liking this. Do you think it would work, making the stats across widgets, or is it like a thing that's maybe too complicated for this stage?
Um, I think it makes sense. Like, because the way I see these widgets are that they're basically just going to be a React component that takes some input, and that input is probably going to be like this big object that has like your number, like every single date and the number of pages you read that date, and then the dates you started and finished every book. And that like object is going to be passed into like every different stat that needs like book data. And then we'll probably have other inputs like one related to journals, one related to authors. And then different stats will just accept one or more of those inputs. And it's going to be kind of bulky because like there's up a lot of potential data. So I think that would be my worry. Like when this renders and we're looking at it for last week, and then you change it to all time, that's a big difference in scale in the amount of data that's needed. So do we just pass in all time data all the time and then filter it to just showing the last week, which is what I'd lean towards because it's the most flexible, but it would preload a lot of data. But the good part is that potentially lots of different widgets and stats parts would use that same data. So we're not generating it 10 times, we're generating it once and passing it into 10 different components.
Yeah, I think that would work because basically, I mean, if we can get that data, that's like one thing that would interest me because if we can do this, no matter what approach we take, that's great. It opens up a lot of possibilities. But loading it up front, I'm guessing we could do this as your dashboard loads because people are gonna be expecting that a dashboard takes like a lot of data. So if it doesn't take, I mean, what would be like the loading time you'd just guess for this? Of course, it would be a wild guess, but I'm guessing it's like seconds.
Yeah, I think switching this as we switch over to inertial JS and Rails, the loading time for this is going to be like so low it's not even going to matter.
Okay,
Like
then yeah.
my biggest worry would be for readers like Jeff who have like 20,000 books in their library. So we would have to stress test it in that case, but
Yeah.
I'm not as worried about it as I would be if we were using GraphQL and that system.
Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing, there would be like caching involved, so it wouldn't have to load all the data for each session, just the new one. Would that be like a thing, or would it have to load it like every time you load up your dashboard on any
Yeah,
device?
that's something that I'm planning to do on the new Rails migration. It's this idea that whenever you load a page, we might have to hit the database and get some data. But whenever you refresh any page on Hardcover, my hope is that like there are no database queries and no data on that next page. Everything's cached, except I think we'll probably need one like database request, which like goes and gets your current user to let us know if you still exist and if you're not banned. and
Nice.
but everything else would be cached.
Great. Yeah, that sounds great. And it would basically be just like the new info that needs updated. So, maybe you've had a couple of more journal entries, and since last time you've loaded the data, I'm guessing that would be like a separate thing. Would it be able to come in as just new data?
I think if you like tracked a new, like you update a new progress, then the next time you go to the dashboard, it would take that second to load everything, or maybe just load the new stuff that's needed. Like the journal entry cache might still be cached, and maybe your genres read might still be cached, but your pages per day, now that part needs to be expired and refetched. So it would be able to selectively cache parts of it.
That sounds great. Yeah. Yeah, it gives us, I mean, what I'm thinking now is choosing like what to show on the stats page and what to maybe show on the dashboard. So that's very, very, very useful, to know, because it puts like a lot of structure in the data. And yeah, I'm guessing, one of the goals would be to make this stats page, which has like huge amounts of data, loads and not crash. Like, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not have it seem like you're waiting forever. Yeah, I think uh, I think like the current setup, it takes a decent amount of time, but most of the time it's like the parts that take the long time are not because of anything that we would be worried about for this.
nice. Well, that's good. So basically, maybe we can like go forward with this model, seeing, what stats to put in here and thinking, that they might end up on the dashboard, and basically taking what feedback people left. Would that sound like a good, plan going forward?
Yeah, I'd one thing that I'd be interested in from like a like visual hierarchy perspective is like consistency in all of these stats so that they like I know like for the top author one over here on the left, we have like this like icon and subheader part,
Mm-hmm.
or like if we have like a visual divide, like a row dividers for different areas,
Yeah.
things like that. But I,
What? Yeah.
or if there's like almost like a footer part, like I was imagining, like if something was, let's say, a um, how would I do this? Like if it was a supporter only feature, for instance, if it had almost like a different color bottom or something, and it called out to like be a supporter, and then maybe it was like blurry, or it had like a placeholder.
Yeah, that sounds, I mean, similar to what we're doing here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good thing to worry about. And what I like about this approach, and why I think, I forced, why I think it's useful to force ourselves to do this, is because if we do it so that it's adaptable, it basically puts a lot of pressure on us to uh, essentialize the layout. So like you said, some parts would have to be fixed. So you'd have a title here you'd have like either a graph or some covers or some images of authors, but everything would be like in the same place. And the data might change. So for pages last week you might have like a 94% average, but for books last month, maybe it's gonna be something different, because you're probably gonna have like one book or something. Maybe we'll put something else in here. And I also like, turning this into a menu that you can use to control the size, the um, actual, stat that's showing here. Maybe even, hide some of the stuff, but yeah, put more stuff than just the size in there.
Yeah,
So
it
that kind of forces us to be very like structured in the design. And like you said, we'd have to decide, maybe, next step would be to figure out to make a couple of these based on the feedback, and see which ones could go both on the stats page and on the dashboard.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking, based on what many people have told us, they're looking at how their reading is evolving. So maybe if they saw that every time they open hardcover and they like see like a live snapshot of what they're doing, that could almost be like many, like that those could be many of the stats they actually need. And then when you go to the stats page, you get like more in-depth stuff. We've also been talking about narratives, which we can get to, like look over the exercise we did like in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So for one of these, like let's say pages read, if we're looking at this widget on the stats page, we wouldn't need to be able to change the date for it on that page, because the date on the stats page would be set at the page level.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost makes me think like maybe when it comes to headers, we have two types of headers. One is like a dashboard header, and one is a stats page header. And maybe we allow those to be slightly different because they have different capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, basically this is like a thing that controls the date range. And
from the
here,
size on the right, yeah.
yeah, it would just be like a title. I mean, this will probably like change anyway, but yeah, maybe this is a better example. Uh, yeah, here it would be like dependent on what range you pick, but yeah, here it would be like something that's used to control the actual widget. Um, this is exciting because now I can like make the dashboard view and the stats page view and see how they would be different. But these restrictions actually like help a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I think that makes sense. So like it's almost like um each of these is like a card, and then the card header is different depending on where it's called from, but the card content is going to be the same, and the card wrapper is going to be the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. That should make sense, right?
I think so. I think yeah, I think and I guess the other part is like on the stats page, we have this idea of sharing as well,
Yeah. Maybe
and
this
how
could be
that yeah,
integrated here. Yeah. Is that what you're thinking as well?
yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it's just in that drop down for sizing and sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, that could definitely work. And it simplifies while making it, more useful. Um, Maybe once I do a couple of these for both like the stats page and the dashboard page, it would become clear if it's easy to do this. But I think it seems like a good way to go forward.
Hmm.
Yeah. And we've been talking about adding more narrative to the stats. Based on the feedback, I think many people wanted more like qualitative data. So basically, I guess someone reading the stats and making sense of some of the stats for them and spelling out, what is going on, for instance, with their reading of certain genres. Are they reading, when did the genres shift? Are you reading more in this time of year? Are you going through a reading slump? I think that's like what stood out, and maybe we could like what we've been. Let me stop sharing this. What we've been talking about is adding more narrative to the stats page, so we can actually like tell you more, like, I guess, processed
Yeah,
information.
I see it like as insights. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
insights into your reading. And I feel like that might be a good differentiator between what's a supporter feature and what's a free feature. Like
Mm.
things that are sharing data and just the facts about your reading are free features, and the ones that are insights into like why you entered a reading slump or like answers to questions, those are more supporter features.
Yeah, that's actually like a good way of putting it. So basically, right now we have a mix on the stats page between those. But for instance, the genre bump chart, the bump chart, it's an insight into your reading, and we could take it like at several other levels or with other visualizations. But that's like a good like separation, right? So facts like about your reading, those are free, but what we're doing is giving you uh, insight based on the info you've logged in, and that's like a supporter feature.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as we decide on the specific widgets and start creating them, it'll become clearer which ones are uh, insights and which ones are just facts too. Like this page one
Yeah,
that we're discussing today, that one's all fact. But then
yeah,
if we had something like um, give recommendations on authors and genres that you'd enjoy based on like to get you out of a reading slump or something like that, or like
mm,
uh, let's see, yeah, see which books led you to have a biggest upswing in your reading. That might be more of an insight than a fact, because it's
yeah.
yeah, but yeah,
That's yeah, definitely. I was thinking as you were saying that, like how we could either visually or like spell it out. I'm not sure like which path we should go to, because in our team's exercise basically we answered what might wait, let me pull up the Miro board. So the question was how might I, and basically we had 4 categories. Maybe we can. Would it be okay to share the actual Miro board?
yeah, go for it.
Just like a bit to get a little bit of extra context. So yeah, basically this was the question, and we answer like, how might I? 4 pages read. See a GitHub calendar comment like chart of my reading. See which days I read the most. See a live view of my reading. See which years I've read the most. See which books led me to reading to read less, like a slump. Yeah, those would definitely, some of them would count as insights. And basically what we did is split these into like two stuff that's been most requested. So pages read was like the top requested thing, genres was next, then books read, then authors read. So we basically answered stuff based on these categories. And yeah, some of the stuff is really interesting, like uh, see what specific themes from books I resonate most with, and understand what tropes cause the DNF. Like those are like insight, pretty good insights.
Yeah, like if I knew every time I read a book about U.S. politics, I go into a reading slump. Like,
Yeah, that definitely I see that happening. uh, yeah, and it could also go into recommendations, like give recommendations on books I missed, or see which series I read the most books from. Um, yeah, some of this we'll definitely try to see if we can visualize. So that's like next on our agenda.
yeah, I
Basically, yeah.
I think what's most exciting to me about this setup is kind of this ability that we could have to create all these different widgets that together create a dashboard that showcases exactly what you would most want. Like, I think for me personally, I'd be curious for you too. Like, what would be on your dashboard? Like, what would be the widgets that you would want on your dashboard every time you load Hardcover?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think it's like pretty much aligns with what people have been telling us. So it would be basically like what I'm currently reading. Like if I'd also have like the social tab to see which stuff has been going on in my network, who saved books based on like my referrals and that kind of stuff. Um, and then yeah, stuff related to what I'm logging. So I'd be interested in how often I do journal entries now that we have the journal. Like this week, I made saved 10 quotes and made 5 notes on what I'm reading. And then basically like the progress chart. So I'd be most interested in how much I read weekly. So this week, 200 pages. 2 weeks ago, 100, and see how it evolved. I'm guessing those are like my four most interesting stats. Like, what about you? What would you see on the dashboard?
Um, I definitely want like books I'm currently reading so I can update the status of those.
Mm.
I I like the idea of being able to see like the books I have in some kind of up next state, whether that's a
Okay.
list. So that could be embedding a list and then showing
Ah,
like
yeah,
a
pinning a list.
certain, yeah, like pinning a list to it, and then maybe showing like the top X from that list. Um, I like the idea of seeing what books my friends or people I follow are currently reading, or maybe like filtering that down to like books people I'm friends with are currently reading that I have already read, because those would be the ones that I would most be curious to like talk to them about, or like
Yeah,
books that are on my want to read list, and I want to like see like, oh, they're reading that book that I've been meaning to read, maybe I should read it now so that we can talk about it.
yeah. This dude,
um,
like, yeah.
and I'd be curious to see like um, new prompts that
Mm,
um,
good point.
people
Yeah.
I've people I follow have answered. Um, Maybe like I'd be curious to see like trending books that I haven't read that maybe are most targeted to me, like the highest match percentage books that I haven't read that are popular. So yeah, it's a lot of, some of it's discovery, some of it's social. Um, I think the genre side is less something I would have on the dashboard and more I would go to stats to dig
Mm-hmm.
into. But I think
Yeah.
I like pages read. I'd probably do like pages read like year to date, and then
Mm-hmm.
so like since the beginning of the year, this is my pages read chart, and maybe like my last couple books that I've read with my rating.
Nice.
Yeah, those are some of the things, and I think some of those make sense as things on the stats page, but some of them don't as much, because I feel like showing like the last 5 books you read and rated
Yeah.
isn't that useful on an all-time stats page.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, those are really good. I mean, definitely, as you were mentioning, some of those you mentioned, I might want to see on my dashboard as well. Uh, those are, I'm thinking, for stats, we probably won't make like every stat on the stat page embeddable. Just like maybe for some stats, just like have like pin this to your dashboard for the stats that you can pin to your dashboard. And maybe on your dashboard, because I realized, some of the things like prompts, you know you can't have those in the stats page. So I'm gonna try designing like widget for prompts as well, and maybe some of them, will just have some sizes available. So for prompts, maybe you could go like a size smaller or a size larger depending on how many prompts you want to see there, or it can just be like the newest prompt. But yeah, I'm guessing this is a good way of going forward. So basically, from the stats page, you can pin some stuff which is relevant to your dashboard, but the dashboard basically has like the stats plus other widgets that don't have like anything to do with stats.
Yeah, which makes me think we'll probably need like a dashboard widget page that shows all available widgets that you could add. Either that or that's in like a drop down where you
Yeah,
can
I
like
was just thinking like a drop down, and you could show hide stuff from the drop down. That would be simple, and we can
or
turn it into like a drawer and on mobile.
yeah, or maybe it's not even show hide, maybe it's just add, and
Or
then
ads, yeah, and you can
because you
remove.
might want the same widget multiple times just with different settings. Like you might want to see
True.
pages per week and pages year to date, and
Oh yeah. Ah,
so
yeah, that's great. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so you can add stuff multiple times. Nice. This is gonna be complicated, but yeah, if we pull this off, let's see if we can pull this off.
and
This is exciting. Yeah.
I'm honestly just like excited to do it in Rails and not have to work through an API with Next. Like it's going to be like if we can do this after we get the Rails migration done, it's going to be so much simpler. Like I was kind of dreading how hard some of this stuff would be in that paradigm, but
Yeah.
with this new paradigm, it's almost going to be like the hard part's going to be the React side as opposed to the data side.
Yeah, fingers crossed we can pull it off, because yeah, if this happens, it looks like kind of like the blockage that we can just remove, like a dam bursting that would allow us to ship like some of the stuff we've tried to ship, but we've been bogged down in like how complex it actually like is building it. And with stuff that we've been adding, stuff breaking everywhere, and us trying to manage it, and basically that taking up most of our time. This is hoping this is gonna be like a successful migration, and then we can ship everything.
Sounds good.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I think that's time. 2 minutes
Yeah.
overboard. So I guess thanks everybody, and see you next week.
Sounds good. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.